Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim Amin. Jumu'ah Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum. I used to wonder why does it seem like that prayer is so long, but I read as often as I can the hadith, and what I got out of reading the hadith is that Allah wants you to spend every nanosecond in worship. Business and activities, your mind should be constantly praying, reciting Quran, making dhikr constantly. And that's why Al-Fatiha seems like it's so long. Because, besides getting into something you're not supposed to be doing. So, yeah, spend your time in the remembrance of Allah. But, I don't know. I mean, I just turned 55, right? And I'm laughing because I remember when I turned 35, it seemed like I was always telling people, I'm 35 years old. And my cousin, who's just a few months younger than I am, was like, you've been 35 for 2 weeks. You not that 35, you know what I mean? So it's feeling like that with 55 too. Keeps coming up. I feel like I'm at a certain age now where I could boast a little bit or, kind of, just like bring it up. I'm 55, you know what I mean? So it's like being 55, I think I was looking at this girl at the bus stop and she has so much energy, so much vitality. And I'm reading Brandy's book and the way she describes stuff is the exact same way. Some people are just like super energetic, just like so much energy. And I think other people like that, want to be around that type of energy. And so some people probably like, girl, sit down or something. But she talks about how she started screaming, and stuff happened. And she ran one time when she met Whitney Houston, was walking her way. She got so excited, she just broke. I saw that on TV. So, but to hear her describe it, like what she was actually thinking and going through, it's just like so cute. But I was thinking when I was 15, I was 15, 40 years ago. Okay? That kind of like totally put things in perspective. 40 years ago, I turned 15. So it's been a long time since I was 15, but I've seen a lot of things and I've read and educated myself on things, and I feel like it surprises me sometimes how people will stop everything they're doing just to continue a conversation with me. because I'm 55. I'm like old lady granny, kind of. But I take the bus and I'm homeless, so I'm like bag lady, kind of. And I tease people like, because a bag can mean different things now, but I'm still like the bag lady. So you can find me sitting down at the mall, charging my phone, but I'm crocheting or something. And when people catch me sometimes, especially if they have children, then they really like, because I'm good for like yelling stuff out. She too young to have a wig on, mommy. Put her in some ponytails and silk ribbons, and make her feel good about being a little girl, something like that. Or maybe having a tantrum. Why didn't you get him a toy? You tripping. Go back and get him a toy right now. Now. And then come back and show me his toy. But other things like I watched develop, like for what Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith, and I'm so happy that she hyphened the Smith onto her name, because they've been married a long time, and I used to really criticize her because I'm really, really black love, marriage, children. Mr. and Mrs. Will Smith is what I feel like her name should be, Mrs. Will Smith. That's it. When you get married, you are your husband. But she's famous, so it took her a while, but now she's known as Jada Pinkett Smith, which for me is like awesome that she did that, because she was just Jada Pinkett after they've been married 20 years. You know what I mean? But some people don't ever like Whitney. She never got a chance to be Whitney Houston Brown, But yeah, Jada and Will came up on my feed, and I'm thinking, like, my son is like, Mom, you got to get an assistant or get some type of AI search engine specially curated for you. And I'm like, no, I'm okay. Gemini is already harassing me, and I don't want to do that because my phone seems to already have it under control. So they came up on my timeline, and I was so happy because Willow, I used to see her in Malibu, and she used to like my son, but I think, well, in fact, I'm sure that their family has like the house Negro, field Negro. We only marry people our color, like Jack and Jill type of thing, which I don't understand, never will. I'm not light skinned, so I don't know what that's like. You know what I mean? I feel like they got a whole nother set of problems because they kind of could pass. They say if you're light, you're all right. No, if you're white, you're right. And if you're light, you're all right. But if you're black, get back. So, they got to deal with that, plus probably animosity from dark-skinned black people or whatever. But they have that. I don't think Willow has that much because she's like my son, and he's dark. But I think their children, I like children. I think that their children are sweet, and I can't imagine what it's like to have two famous parents. But, time. Because they went through it, but I used to see them. And they always just struck me as the most adorablest children. But so Jaden, who I'm sorry their parents named the boy after the mother and the girl after the father, which I don't know, to me it seemed like it could be problematic, but it is what it is, and the children seem to be doing better. And children are extremely resilient, so maybe they just I don't know why the parents did that, but black people in general, we working it out. I'm just gonna say positive. And they were together this weekend because I'm like so disconnected from a lot of stuff. I just get bits and pieces of stuff that's happening. And so, but Jaden is like an executive at Louboutin, or I don't know how to pronounce it because I'm not into that kind of fashion. But I remember the red bottom, high heels, and all that. So he's like really into fashion. He's an executive. So they had some type of event, probably a fashion show. And all of them were there. Even Will's oldest son, who's like the third Will Smith, and they call him Trey, and Jada's mother was there. They had that show with the three generations. And I kind of feel so sorry for Willow because I had to do that type shit and I hated it. But how you gonna not do it, So yeah, she's doing her music thing and working with a guy who has his own bass. He has a signature bass, and it looks like it's acoustic. And I had the honor of actually playing an acoustic bass guitar. I hadn't even heard of it. I never knew there was such a thing, but I saw one and it was just like, oh my God. So yeah, that he has one, it looks like an acoustic bass, but it's electric. You know how most electric guitars are pointy and like 80s looking, asymmetrical or whatever, but his looks like a regular guitar with a long fretboard, I guess that's what you call it. And that's his signature bass. I think it's so cool. And but Jaden, he is like, it's easy to lose sight of the point. You know what I mean? A point is like the smallest. It's like I don't want to say microscopic, but it's like the smallest thing, but it's the most important. Visually it's the smallest, but truthfully it's the largest, because without the point we wouldn't have none of all this other big, huge, gigantic, in your face, shine, gleaming, boom, look at me. And the point gets lost because all these photographs and all this stuff on the red carpet or whatever is, and I'm seeing all these family pictures. I'm like, where's Jaden? But he's not in none of them. I figure he's like doing, his job or whatever they were there for, but I don't know, maybe afterwards they could have got a photo. I'm going to look again, I did see that he went out with his parents for a meal, but it was just them. But yeah, I think that's awesome, to be this age, grow up with hip hop and actually have a couple who's still together, they like made it past that midlife test. Couples, if you can make it past that midlife crisis, he's older and feeling like he's not as appealing as he was. She's older and feeling like she's not as appealing as she was. And they start looking outside of the marriage for reaffirmation. Our children don't need us like they used to anymore. They're crossing into that line of independence, and we gotta stay together so they can always come back to us, but we got to work it out between us and figure out how we're going to move on together into this next phase of our life. We're back at square one. We're back at one where it's just us again. So what do we do now? I say, from what I've read, they call it, some people call it empty nesting, and they will maybe start a business. I say go on another honeymoon, get used to each other again. Remember what it was like when it was just you two before and you just played and have fun. Travel, you gotta be malleable and flexible and move into this next beautiful stage, because from here on out is cruise control. So yeah, was just so happy to see them together. And I kind of feel like I'm over my dislike of Will Smith now, which is like huge, because I have harbored a dislike for him since 1988. It's crazy because when I was in high school, well, even like my whole life, I've been an exceptional writer. Okay, so my senior teacher, this white bitch, accused me of plagiarism. She told me I did not write my paper. I was so upset. How can you prove something like that? It's easy to prove something you did not do. I mean, maybe not or whatever. I don't really am still upset about it. But I brought in the Ebony magazine, and they have published a letter that I wrote to the editor, and it was on jazz, because jazz was like falling off, but I still listened to it. And I told them hip hop is jazz, and hip hop generation still like jazz. And there's this new artist, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. And that's in this letter that I wrote to Ebony magazine. And they published it. I showed it to that bitch. And she was like, oh, I'm sorry. White people. Homeschool. Okay, so yeah, then my friend wants some tickets off of K-Day to go see them at the Wiltern or whatever. So I go with her to K-Day on Crenshaw to pick up her tickets. And she had like front row tickets or whatever. And then she I think she got 2 tickets. And she told me, go in there and see if you could get some more. And I was like, what? And she said, yeah, just go in there and tell them you want some tickets too. So I was like, man. But she gave me the confidence. You can do it. Go in there. You can just do this. So I went in. I came out with some tickets, but I was on row M. So the night of the concert, I was thinking, I totally forgot about that concert. But yeah, whatever. So the night of the concert, I'm up in the front row with them. He on stage, it was a good show. I like the beatbox, Ready Rock C. A lot of people forget about him. But I don't know, Philadelphia. But he had on a Lecoq Sportif, sweatsuit. Those were big back then. So I'm yelling, give me your jacket. Give me your jacket. And he was like, all right, come backstage after the show. So we went backstage after the show. I don't know how we got in or nothing. But we backstage, and I'm standing there like he in the middle of a conversation with some white man and his son or grandson or nephew. You know how white people are with their children, and he just like so like blatantly ignoring me to talk to this white man. And I was like, man, fuck you. You know, we left. Next thing I know, in West Philadelphia, born and raised, he got a TV show. So I'm like, man. And I've been mad at him since that night. No cap. I think seeing him and Jada, like, I ordered Ruby Dee's book, and I don't know what it is with the mail, but I'm still having problems. You know, they sent me a book that Ruby and Icy had wrote together. If Icy got a book by himself, they sent me that. They sent me some stage plays that Icy had written. Everything about Ruby and Icy Davis, except I got one nerve left, and you're getting on it. So eventually I was able to read the book, but she told me that, and I'm able to see that being celebrities and trying to have a successful marriage is challenging at best. You know what I mean? At best, it's challenging. So, at least that's what I see. I haven't had a relationship with anyone famous or anything like that. So, I don't think I could do it. But I see like Lauryn Hill and her husband has several families. That's what I call it. To me, that's what it is. It's like one man got all these wives and all his wives have children. I guess I could put him up there with Eddie and Meth. And I forgot who else. Oh, Wanye. They all got all these women, and I call them families. So Ruby D, I call her Ruby Davis, has a point of view, and she said she and Ossie went through a separation just like Will and Jada, you know, where they wanted to expand the boundaries of their marriage. I'll put it that way. You know, I don't know what it's like. You know, I do know vows, you know, the vows that you take, but who knows how you gonna feel in 50 years. You know what I mean? And if you expect somebody not to change, you're crazy. You know, on the day you get married, hell yeah, I feel like I'm gonna forsake everyone and it's just me and you forever, you know. But in 50 years, no telling what has happened. You know what I mean? So they both agreed to it, you know, and they say if you love someone, you gotta set them free. You know, flap your wings, and if it's true or whatever, they'll come back. But, and I agree with that. You know, if they want to go, me personally, bye. You know, bye. I'm not gonna hold you if you don't want to be here. You know, to me, that's not love. That's torture. So if you're not happy anymore for whatever reason, you know, first I say go to counseling, see if you can find that happiness again. And if all else fails, Because I met a sister in 2018 or so, maybe 17, and she said she and her husband were still trying to work it out for the sake of the children. Because that used to be a thing back in the day, stay together just for the children. But like Beyonce, she was like, no, the children don't want y'all together. You crazy. You're not supposed to be together. It's got to that point. Children feel like, y'all, no, we don't want you together. We happier with y'all apart. You crazy together. It's not going to work. And we understand that. So, yeah, we happier when y'all not together. So, if counseling doesn't work, and I don't know, I feel like white people, established making marriages the way they are to keep track of black people, what we're doing, and if they might get some more slaves or some more people to put in the penal system, put in jail, slave. That's how I feel. The legal marriage, the way it is just for Yakub still going on. You can't get married unless your blood matches. And we want to know. So I'm happy Ruby and IC got it out their system. Will and Jada got out their system. So cruise control, smooth sailing, just ride it on out. And to me, that's awesome. I think I know another couple who's still together, but her husband is like super old. So I don't know if that counts. He's like old enough to be her father. So that probably don't count. They gotta both be hip hop heads. Well, I mean, I guess it could count when you consider, what's really important in a marriage, and that's staying together. So yeah, Ayana, your husband looks like my professor. I'm not sure because we don't talk, but if that's him, leave a comment. It was dope. And I might have to add something as I think of more people. But I think it's other people not quite as famous, or maybe one of them is famous and the other one is not. But as long as they still together, that's the important thing. So yeah, I'm gonna go. Sometimes it's hard to end. But yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wahid.